Morning team. Now when you're watching this, it will actually be Sunday the 15th of September 2024. And that's a significant date, isn't it, in Battle of Britain history, because Battle of Britain Day is considered to have been the 15th of September 1940. So we are here on the channel talking about it 84 years on to the very day. And what I want to explore is whether Sunday the 15th of September actually does deserve its place in history as Battle of Britain Day. There's been a bit of revisionism lately, there always is. There's nothing wrong with revisionism because history is an ongoing process of research, and our interpretation of events and understanding of events often changes over time as more information becomes available. And that's certainly the case with the Battle of Britain, because contrary to some of the narratives that were written say in the 1950s, 60s and 70s, we have substantially more information available today in the public domain, and indeed from Germany. And I guess, to be fair, that the most up-to-date research is the 8-volume official history that I've recently produced in 1,000,000 words for the Battle of Britain Memorial Trust, published by Pen and Sword, day by day, 360. So we're looking not just at the air fighting between the fighters and the German daylight raids. We're looking at Coastal Command, Bomber Command, the home front, everything, the politics, the diplomacy that's going on behind the scenes. And it's fascinating when you actually look at something in that much detail. So what I thought I'd do is just sketch out a few things, because I find this fascinating. It is just really interesting. Now, 11th of August 1940, that's the day that saw the heaviest raids up to that point, and massive fighting that had been ongoing for a while over a convoy steaming through the channel. And on the 11th of August, the whole thing came to a head. And we lost more pilots that day than on any other day during the Battle of Britain, 25. That's a lot of pilots. And the reason so many were lost is because the fighting was over the sea. And unlike the Germans, who had got their Seenotdienst, their air sea rescue service, well organised with their Heinkel 59 float planes, we hadn't, which is astonishing, isn't it? For an island nation that lacked the foresight to actually create a substantial and efficient air sea rescue service. So our pilots are reliant on the odd RAF air sea rescue high-speed launch at the time, or passing navy vessels or fishing trawlers. Absolutely astonishing, really. But 25 pilots lost that day, and that was the highest number lost since the fall of France, and indeed throughout the whole 16 weeks of the Battle of Britain. So pilot losses that day exceeded the provision of replacements, and that's a serious concern. Now, it's important to understand that thanks to Lord Beaverbrook, who became the Minister for Air, the Minister for Aircraft Production, as he liked to call himself, who supercharged aircraft production, the supply of replacement aircraft to Fighter Command was never an issue. So bear that in mind, because that is a significant fact. And on the 11th of August, Fighter Command flew over 400 sorties, another nearly 200 sorties protecting convoys, plus 150 routine patrols. Those figures, Fighter Command was quite capable at the time of increasing, but equally, the Germans had only committed 400 aircraft to battle, so they were too. So 11th of August, although we've lost the most number of pilots, the day itself is not as critical as some of the others that followed. So if you were to argue that 11th of August was the worst day, well, surely the greatest day would have to be 15th of August 1940. And I say that because on that day, all three German Luftflotten air fleets, the two in France, 2 and 3, and 5 in Norway, attacked on a 500-mile front from Portland right the way up to northeast England and Newcastle and Sunderland. Astonishing. And indeed, Luftflotte 5, based in Norway, which attacked northeast England, sallied forth with their bombers only protected by Mi-110s that were carrying the Dachshund auxiliary fuel tank, which made the aircraft even less manoeuvrable. No 109s, obviously way beyond the range of the 109, and they suffered accordingly. And in fact, Luftflotte 5 would play no further part in the daylight battle. So arguably, General Feldmarschall Stumpf's Luftflotte 5 was defeated in a single day. So that's significant, isn't it? The Germans flew 2,000 sorties that day, fighter command just under 1,000. And the RAF claimed 180 enemy aircraft destroyed. And elsewhere on the channel, there's pods and probably videos that looks at the issue of overclaiming. Check it out because it's a very, very interesting subject. The actual number of enemy aircraft destroyed was really nearer 75. It was, however, the worst day in history for the Mi-110 force, which lost 27 aircraft either destroyed or written off. 46 German aircrew were killed, POW and or wounded, including Probrungsgruppe 210's gifted Commodore, Commander Huttmann Rubensdorfer, who was also killed. So it was a costly day for the Mi-110 force, really, really costly day. The most costly day in history for the Zestora force, in fact. Now, the Luftwaffe claimed 108 RAF fighters, which included 82 Spitfires and Hurricanes, when actually only 25 of both types were lost. So both sides are guilty of overclaiming, and that's because of the speed of combat and the speed of combat often deceiving the human eye. So it's interesting, isn't it? But when you look at that, those figures are underpinning intelligence, and intelligence is everything. Intelligence is processed information on the enemy's state of battle, its order of battle, its strength, its tactics, its resources, its strategy, and that's going to underpin your own tactics and strategy, isn't it? So you need accurate intelligence, and unfortunately, Luftwaffe intelligence was incompetent, no question. And throughout the Battle of Britain, this was a major significant factor that the Luftwaffe was misinformed by its own intelligence service, which is a whole video for another day. But on this day, the RAF actually lost 17 RAF fighter pilots killed or missing, 12 wounded, and 3 who were captured. And on that day, Churchill was actually in Air Vice Marshal Keith Park's underground operations room at Uxbridge, which you can visit. It's all kitted out as it was, and Hillingdon Council own it and do trips there from the Battle of Britain bunker, as it's called, an excellent museum and excellent guided tours of that. So if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely well worth a visit, especially because of Churchill's presence on the 15th of September and on this particular day. So that day also, to Churchill, highlighted what he described as Air Chief Marshal Sir Hugh Dowding, the Chief of Fighter Command, not having concentrated his resources in the southeast around London, but to spread them around the country. Because don't forget, the whole of England the whole of British Isles is within range of German bombers, and you cannot predict where they're going to strike. And that day absolutely emphasised that with the attack from Norway directed at northeast England, and the Germans did not expect to be met by droves of Spitfires and Hurricanes. It's a great scene, isn't it, in the 1969 epic Battle of Britain film, when Christopher Plummer et al. Intercepts all the hindquarters, and it's like a turkey shoot, enough to stir the blood of any 10-year-old schoolboy, and indeed it did my own. But that's it. You see, it was an incredible day, and Churchill, wrote about that it underpinned and underlined and emphasised the Dowding's foresight and genius of generalship, which is a great phrase, isn't it? Genius of generalship, and that day absolutely is what Dowding was predicting and safeguarding against, and thank goodness he did. So then we come on to the 18th of August 1940, by which time the Germans are pulverising the airfields. And that's a bit of a myth too, that when the Germans turned away on the 7th of September to start the round-the-clock bombing of London, the airfields were on their knees and battered and so on and so forth, and this was the turning point. Well, yes and no. Some of the airfields have been battered, Kenley, Manston, Biggin Hill, but they weren't knocked out. Manston was, but it wasn't that important, actually, Manston. It wasn't a sector station. And the whole thing, has been kind of exaggerated in that respect. The truth of it is that had the Germans carried on with that level of attack against the airfields, then they would have been knocked out. So in that respect, it was a turning point, and it was important that the Germans switched the emphasis of their attacks from the airfields to London, which gave the airfields time to recuperate and repair and so on. But it isn't, you've got to understand that it isn't that they were absolutely crushed and on their knees, and that then allowed them to get going again. It wasn't quite that bad, in fact, and that's argued by the academic German historian Horst Boog, who's absolutely right in what he says, absolutely right. So let's just get that right. But 18th of August, another significant day. All these raids on the airfields, significantly the raids on Kenley, that one of which went badly wrong. Erprobungsgruppe 210 again suffered heavily that day, and the Germans flew 970 sorties. They lost 69 aircraft destroyed or damaged beyond repair, 94 aircrew killed, 40 prisoners of war, and 25 wounded. And on that day, the Junkers 87 Stuka dive bomber was finally defeated and withdrawn from the daylight battle. So it's significant, isn't it? Another significant day. Fighter Command flew 927 sorties. They lost 31 fighters, and more, 136 altogether, destroyed or damaged, many on the ground, 10 pilots killed, and another 10 wounded. Now, my old friend and mentor, Dr. Alfred Price, the late, sadly, Dr. Alfred Price, Alfred wrote his fabulous book in the late 1970s, The Hardest Day, which was a minute-by-minute, blow-by-blow account of Sunday, the 18th of August 1940. And of course, writing at that time was very exciting, writing and researching, because the survivors were still around on both sides of the channel. And Alfred did an excellent job putting adverts in newspapers and tracking down civilian eyewitnesses and obviously the aircrew and putting it all together. Now, in Alfred's opinion, at that time, with the information available, he called it the hardest day. And he called it the hardest day because both sides lost more aircraft than on any other day throughout the entire Battle of Britain. Now, I think Alfred got that wrong. Well, he didn't get it wrong that they lost more aircraft, that's true. However, for Britain, because of Lord Beaverbrook's efforts, the supply of replacement aircraft was never an issue. And at that time, it wasn't for the Germans either. So it wasn't a tipping point, 18th of August. I don't think it was the hardest day. It was a hard-fought day, but if you look We've looked at the 11th of August, we lost 25 pilots. We've looked at the 15th of August, when all those sorties are flown, and we've got 17 fighter pilots lost. We've got Luftwaffe 5 defeated in a single day. You know, does that stack up really then, that the 18th of August is the hardest day? I don't think it does. A hard fought day, certainly, but not the hardest. So then we come to Sunday, 15th of September 1940, which ever since has been celebrated as Battle of Britain Day, and all the memorial services are held on the closest Sunday to the 15th of September. And I'm speaking to you via this video on Sunday the 15th of September 2024. Actually, on this day, I am at the National Battle of Britain Memorial at Capel-le-Fern, high on the cliffs above Folkestone, where we've had a memorial service at 11 o'clock, followed by at 12 o'clock, me speaking about 10 illuminating things arising from my research for the official history series, and I'm really looking forward to that. So while you're watching this, that's what I'm doing. But on Battle of Britain Day, then, Fighter Command claimed 185 aircraft destroyed. It was actually 56 that the Germans really lost, which is less than on the 15th and the 18th of August. And on the 15th of September, the Germans lost 81 aircraft killed, 63 captured and 31 wounded. So they're big figures, aren't they? The RAF lost 29 aircraft and 12 pilots, which is less than on the 8th of August, when 14 pilots were lost, the 11th of August, as we've discussed, when 25 were lost, and on the 15th of August, when 13 were lost, and the 7th of September, that day when the round-the-clock bombing of London began, when 13 were also lost. And I'm just going to read now a section out of Volume 5, Target London, which covers the period from 7th of September to the 17th of September, the 17th being a significant day for reasons we'll look at. But actually, before I do, just to give some indication of the number of German aircraft that were thrown against London, Squadron Leader Brian Lane, commanding 19 Squadron at Falmere in the Duxford sector. This is a page of Brian's logbook, and the photo there is of Brian and his officers in the Nissen-hutted mess at Falmere. And in his logbook, which is available at the National Archives at Kew in London, anybody can go and have a look at this if you've got a reader's ticket. And he says, 15th of September, he was flying Spitfire X4170, for those who are interested. He says, party 242 leading wing, so that's Douglas Bader's 242 Squadron leading the 12 group wing of 5 squadrons now based at Duxford, ran into the whole Luftwaffe over 10 tenths cloudy means over London. Wave after wave of bombers, covered by several hundred fighters, waded into escort as per arrangement and picked out a 109. Had a hell of a dogfight, and finally he went into cloud in inverted diving, can't read that, obviously crashed as he appeared out of control. So, and in Brian's combat report, which goes into more detail, again, this is a combat report, so you've got things like the date, the time, the squadron. It says number of enemy aircraft, the whole Luftwaffe, he's written. Type, Dorniers, Messerschmitts, Me-110s, and this is at 1450 hours over London. He says, I was leading 19 Squadron on wing patrol. At approximately 1440 hours, anti-aircraft fire was sighted to the south, and at the same time, a formation of about 30 Dornier 215s was seen. I climbed up astern of the enemy aircraft to engage the fighter escort, which could be seen above the bombers at about 30,000 feet. 3 Me-109s dived on the formation, and I turned to starboard. A long dogfight ensued, more ME-109s coming down. I could not get near to any enemy aircraft, so I climbed up and engaged a formation of ME-110s without result. I then sighted some ME-109s just above me and attacked one of them. I got on his tail and fired several bursts of about 2 seconds. Enemy aircraft taking violent evasive action. Enemy aircraft made for cloud level, and I managed to get in another burst of about 5 seconds. Enemy aircraft flicked over, inverted, entered cloud in a shallow inverted dive, apparently out of control. I then flew south and attacked 2 further formations of about 30 Dornier 215s from astern and head on. Enemy aircraft did not appear to like head-on attack, as they jumped about a bit as I passed through. I observed no result from these attacks. Fire from rear of enemy aircraft was opened at, and then I can't read the rest. So you can see it's pretty hectic, isn't it? And up there in the burning blue, we've got young men such as these. This is David Crook here, the author of the memoir Spitfire Pilot, which we republished through Pen and Sword recently, his original manuscript with a lot of extra detail from me, and his friend Geoffrey Gaunt, who was also a member of 609 West Riding Squadron. They were auxiliary airmen, both of them, and Gaunt was in fact a cousin of the famous Hollywood actor James Mason. And sadly, 609 at Warmwell down in 10 Group, they're called up to reinforce 11 Group, and they come up to the Brooklands, the aircraft factory patrol line really in Surrey, but end up in action over London. And poor old Jeff Gaunt, who I think was 23 or 25, was shot down in flames and killed. So, you know, just spare a thought for how young these chaps were. I think it's deeply moving. But going back to the Volume 5, Target London, I'll just read this because it sort of puts it all in perspective. The weather had compromised both German attacks on London. So there's 2 big attacks. A strong headwind increasing flying times from France to London, thereby providing greater opportunities for interceptions. Now that's another really important thing about that switch from the airfields to bombing London, because London was further. It meant that the enemy had to fly further. That gave 11 Group more opportunity, more time to attack them on both the way in and the way out. And that's really important. It's not something that you ever really hear about, because it's all about this airfield thing, but that is crucial. Right, this wind also contributing to the ME-109s running short of fuel and turning about. Moreover, during the afternoon, cloud covered London, thus preventing accurate bombing. Consequently, the Luftwaffe failed to repeat the hammer blow of 7th of September 1940, or indeed deliver the required knockout blow. And that's what it was all about, wasn't it now? Time is running out. Mid-September. I'm sat here talking to you. I'm filming this on the 11th of September. I'm thinking about going carp fishing tomorrow, and it's a bit nippy out there. Suddenly the weather is turning. We're getting well into autumn. And with autumn comes bad weather. Wind, unpredictable weather, unpredictable seas, unpredictable... You know, the time is running out for invasion here. So the enemy have been met over London by an unprecedented number of RAF fighters, twice. According to Cajus Becker in the Luftwaffe War Diaries, on 14th of September 1940, Luftwaffe intelligence firmly believed that fighter command had been knocked out, and that this is what the German air crews had been led to believe. The effect, therefore, on the Germans' morale, when met by hundreds of RAF fighters, therefore, was shattering. Furthermore, it was now abundantly clear to Hitler, this is crucial, and the OKW, the Oberkommando der Wehrmacht, that's the German Armed Forces High Command, that the Luftwaffe was unable to defeat the RAF or inflict such damage on the British economy and morale as to cause a state of chaos, both being objective crucial to the launch of Operation Sea Lover, Operation Sea Lion, the code name for the proposed seaborne invasion of Britain. The writing regarding the future of which now being clearly on the proverbial wall. As we've seen, Luftwaffe after action reports marvelled at the size of RAF fighter formations engaged over London, albeit exaggerating the number as being up to 80 per formation. Nonetheless, there is no doubt that the Duxford Wing's arrival during both London actions was a significant sight for both sides, but for very different reasons. That day, Pilot Officer Richard Jones was flying with 19 Squadron, and this is what he told me. Early in September 1940, I was transferred from 64 Squadron at Kenley in 11 Group to 19 Squadron at Falmere in 12 Group. My immediate impression of flying with a wing comprising 5 squadrons of Spitfires and Hurricanes instead of anything between 5 to 10 aircraft taking off from Kenley to intercept large numbers of enemy aircraft was one of security in numbers. This gave me great confidence, looking around and seeing anything from up to 50 fighters keeping me company. And in this, Jones was surely right. And the arrival of the pirate-like, swashbuckling, fearless Douglas Bader over London with his 5 squadrons must have surely inspired and given hope to even the hardest pressed RAF fighter pilot in action over the capital, but was a crushing blow to the enemy's morale. Duxford squadrons had undoubtedly played a big part in the day's outcome. The 310 Squadron Operations Record Book recording that the day's bag for the station was fairly conclusive proof of the efficiency of the wing formation. Arguably, that was not so. The Duxford Wing had been requested to patrol 11 Group airfields north of London. Instead, Bader had led the wing off on another free-range fighter sweep, heading straight for the action over London, where enemy formations were already being hacked down by 11 Group squadrons, operating in strength. Certainly, Bader's arrival over London was impressive, but it was not the full story, and the Luftwaffe bomber crews were already hard at it, fending off the large numbers of 10 and 11 Group fighters. KG-26 Heinkel 111 pilot Lieutenant Roderick Kescotti remembered that he and his Kameraden were shaken by the numbers of fighters the RAF was able to put up that day and by the determination of the pilots. Nonetheless, as Becker commented, across the Channel the battle was regarded as far from lost. Nonetheless, as Becker commented across here, that may be so, but it was obvious that against such ongoing defensive strength, the German bomber force could not continue to absorb such losses indefinitely. And indeed, again, as Becker also said, if things went on like this, the Luftwaffe would bleed to death over England. So the time was now fast approaching when Hitler would have to make his final decision regarding Operation Seelover. And that was going to be heavily influenced by the events of the 15th of September. Hitler's already delayed his decision, and he cannot really delay this any longer. And the 15th of September, having been told by Luftwaffe intelligence that Fighter Command is on its last leg, with just a handful of aircraft, and twice, not once, but twice over London, the Germans are met by several hundred RAF fighters on each occasion. Well, it's obvious, isn't it? It's not going to happen. So on the 17th of September, Hitler postponed the invasion indefinitely. Now, the Battle of Britain still went on, and look at the podcast that I did about the dates of the Battle of Britain, because if we're led to believe that the Battle of Britain was fought to deny the Germans the aerial supremacy necessary to launch a seaborne invasion of Britain, well, the start date has to be when their air operations were appended to such a plan, and it ends either when they're decisively defeated or they turn away from that objective. So arguably, 2nd of July is when the whole thing was first mooted and shared with the rest of the Wehrmacht, and then on 17th of September Hitler postpones, and indeed 12th of October calls it off completely. So You know, the Battle of Britain official dates, 10th of July 1940, 31st of October 1940, are they relevant, or should it really be 2nd of July 1940 to 17th of September 1940, or 12th of October 1940? That's for you to decide. Listen to the podcast. I went into it in some detail because, again, you know, these are things which we can reevaluate and reconsider in the light of a better understanding and many, many, many more years of research. So fascinating. So basically, the upshot of it is there were critical days in the Battle of Britain for sure, but Battle of Britain Day, Sunday the 15th of September 1940, undoubtedly deserves its place in history as Battle of Britain Day. And the reason for that is because of the effect that it had on influencing Hitler's mind to abandon Operation Sea Lion. So make no mistake, Battle of Britain Day deserves its place in history. So I hope you've enjoyed the discussion. Join the discussion. Your views are just as relevant as mine, and I always enjoy the feedback and interacting with viewers. Please, any feedback, leave it below. If you enjoy the channel, and we're going to have we'll have 100 pods and videos available soon, which you can watch free. Please subscribe, and you can find out more about my work and my books on the Pen and Sword website. In fact, via Pen and Sword, I've written absolutely loads of blogs, Battle of Britain related blogs, which are published there, which you may find interesting reading. You can probably access them through my website, actually, the details of which are on this page. But if you just Google me, Dilip Sarkar, it'll come up. So there we are, Battle of Britain Day, definitely Sunday the 15th of September, deserves its place in history. So thanks for listening, and I'll look forward to talking to you again.